Welcome to our September 12th edition Golden Black Live. I want to thank our sponsors, Triple X on the Hill, but on the level, a Purdue tradition since 1929. And of course, State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com and the good folks at WLFI for making this happen. And TJ and Steve and Chris, we appreciate them as well. All right, today's show, action-packed as always. Tom Dienhart will join me in segment one. We'll break down Purdue USC. Segment two will be Kelly Kitchell. Of course, Purdue fans know him well, not only from his playing days, but his sideline reporting on the Purdue Radio Network. And then Ken Halpin, Purdue's deputy athletic director, will kind of try to encapsulate the big picture of college athletics. We'll look forward to that as well. We'll bring in Tom Dienhart here. And Tom, it's getting near game day here. It is a day from game day, Purdue USC, and the Boilermakers have a big challenge. You've written, and talked some more about that heading into Saturday's game, but going to be an interesting one, 3:30 in Ross-Ade Stadium.
Yeah, opportunity looms, Alan. I mean, Purdue really has nothing to lose here. It's going to be a great litmus test, a great measuring stick, if you will, for the Boilermakers to really see what they're made of so far this year. You can't, I guess come to too many conclusions beating a rebuilding Ball State team in an FCS school. So yeah, now comes the real test to see what Barry Odom's got under the hood, so to speak. So I'm really intrigued. Also intrigued down just to have USC in West Lafayette.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, my friend. 1976. When you get a logo school like that with that type of heritage, that type of prestige, I think it always juices things up a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see that. And I know you asked Barry Odom, I believe, on Monday about that term, those two words, measuring stick game. And no coach tends to bite off on that, but it absolutely is that. I mean, you're going to find out things that we don't know. Is Purdue competitive? Did all these transfers that came to West Lafayette, are they able, at least on a Saturday afternoon on the 13th of September, of going head-to-head with USC? That's going to be a great storyline to see just where, there's no question it's a measuring stick game in my view.
Yeah, and Alan, we know Purdue's a heavy underdog here. What, 20 points, 22 points? You pointed out this week the last time Purdue was this big of a home underdog was 1997, of course. What an iconic afternoon that was when Notre Dame came here led by first-year coach Bob Davie, and Joe Tiller unceremoniously dumped the Fighting Irish, coming off a loss at Toledo to start the season. So
Right.
my point, Alan, is anything is possible. There is a path. There is a path to the upset victory for Purdue. You can construct it a lot of ways. I think you got to try to hit them in the nose early, create some doubt into USC's mind a little bit. That's a program. I know it's 2-0, but I still think there's a little self-doubt there. They weren't that good last year, 4-5 in the Big Ten. They're coming east down. We know the history, or I guess the recent history from last year. These Pac-12 schools coming to the Big Ten footprint, they didn't play well, and USC was one of those teams. So punch them in the nose early, Allen.
Yeah.
Win the turnover battle, and I think you got to be able to run the ball if you're Purdue. That's going to shorten the game. Keep the ball away from USC's offense as long as you can, Allen. Drain that clock. And lastly, hit some big plays, too, for Purdue. You got to score, I think, an unconventional touchdown. Pick six, scoop and score as well if you want to try to win a game like this when you're this big of an underdog.
Yeah, USC potent on offense. Jaden Maeva, the quarterback, who Barry Odom knows well. Was it 7 plays of over 50 yards this year? They lead the nation, though. You forget about that with Lincoln Riley's team sometimes. It coached, of course, Lincoln Riley, the head coach of USC, that they can run the football. They lead the nation in rushing. They've got 2 of the best receivers you're going to find. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for anybody, I think, this year to slow USC down. You've looked at them closely. They've got talent everywhere you turn.
Yeah, boy, you're right about the receiving core. The Mikal Lemon kid is out of sight. Jacoby Lane as well. 2 good running backs you mentioned too, Allen. Speaking to some of the people in Los Angeles, there's still some concern about their offensive line. I think Jaden Maeva. Purdue's going to have to get after him. They have to disrupt his rhythm in the pocket. They can't let him, work back there unfettered, as I like to say. You got to pressure the guy. We'll see what Purdue dials up defensively from a blitz standpoint. It's going to be very interesting. But you're right, Alan. Boy, Lincoln Riley is a quarterback whisperer, as they say.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams with the Bears, Baker Mayfield. He's developed some good passers in his short career so far. So, and then this offense is humming already. So, Purdue's going to have to score some points to win this game. You're not going to beat USC 17-14. And this is going to be a nice test for that Purdue offensive line, right, Alan? Not just to get a push in the ground game and try to establish that rushing attack, but also to protect Ryan Brown, give him some time to throw the ball downfield to Michael Jackson, and Armand Branch and Nitro Tuggle. And also, Alan, of course, George Burhan, the tight end, really looks like he's rounding into form coming off that serious leg injury suffered in the spring.
Well, and you talked about that, and one interesting statistic it was since 1995, only Ryan Brown and Kyle Lorton have averaged 15 yards per completion in weeks 1 and 2 for Purdue. That is significant. That Purdue has tried to with Devin Mockabee, who was certainly the workhorse last week, set a career high with over 30 rushes, and yet they are trying to get the ball downfield. It seems to me it's established the run game and still take your shots down the field. Burhan gives you an opportunity to do that. Certainly Michael Jackson, Nitro Tuggle are guys that in theory can cause some angst if you're a defensive coordinator. The seeds Purdue, you talked about Purdue trying to shorten this game.
Yeah.
Evan Mockabee has done well doing that, but you got to think you're going to still have to get some chunk plays downfield, something that Purdue has not done a ton of so far in the first 2 weeks.
Especially in the ground game. The longest run this year is just 17 yards. Probably not a game breaker back there, but you're right. You got to have big plays to win games, especially games like this. And I guess if I'm USC, I probably come out and I'm still going to make Ryan Brown try to beat me, I think. I'm going to try to shut down that ground game with Devin Mockabee and put the ball in Ryan Brown's lap. Only his 5th career start. Now I'm going to make him throw deep and try to read defenses, get the ball in these tight windows to see if he can deliver or not if I'm that SC defense. So we'll see if he's up to it. He's had his moments so far around, like you said, they're taking their shots downfield. Week 1, we saw them really lean on Ryan Brown, right? 311 yards passing. Week 2, Allen, it was the ground game with Devin Mockabee, 32 carries, a career high, 32 carries. What will it be this week? I got a feeling, again, if Purdue's going to stay in this thing, keep it respectable, or maybe pull the upset, Ryan Brown's going to probably have to have a monster game.
The game aired on CBS. For those of you watching today on WLFI, it will be locally there. And we've talked about that. And again, last year was last year, totally different teams. But your 2 appearances on CBS, I believe it was 66-7 to Notre Dame, 49-10 to Penn State, of which you scored, I think, on the last play of the game. It has nothing to do or very little to do with what we'll see on Saturday afternoon. But that need to compete. And Barry Odom's talked about that. It appears in weeks 1 and 2 that Purdue did a good job bouncing back against Southern Illinois after a slow start. They just did, and Barry Odom talked about that, just doing what they had to do. But this is part of the storyline for Purdue is, you got to walk before you run. And the first step is like you said, punch them in the mouth if you're Purdue punching USC, but also finding a way to be competitive for 60 minutes.
What is success Saturday? Yeah. Well, how do we view success? We've talked about that a few times this week, right? You're a 3-touchdown underdog, so the odds are pretty high for you to win this game. We understand Purdue does have a chance to win the game. We've talked about that, but if they get beat, I guess it's going to really matter on the manner in which this game unfolds. If they get right, do they get boat raced? Obviously, that won't be a good look. We saw that too often last year, which was the issue. They were out of the game by halftime. Saturday. So be competitive, right? Play smart football. They've done that this year. Just 1 turnover, just 5 penalties through 2 games. They're not beating themselves. They can't beat themselves if they want to stay in this thing Saturday, right? And try to make USC sweat. Get this thing into the 3rd quarter where maybe it's a 1 or 2 possession game. You're still within striking distance of SC as well. And make them try to earn every point they get, Allen. I talked about Purdue getting big plays, right? Purdue cannot make life easy for that USC offense. We already know how good it is, right? You can't let them have 1 and 2 play drives where they're scoring on 50-yard bombs or 60-yard runs, Make USC earn it. And for goodness sakes, get your first takeaway of the year, right?
Yeah, need that.
They only had five last year, Alan. So do the math. 14 games, what? 6 turnovers last 14 games. They had 6 takeaways last 14 games. So yeah, so like I said, the challenge is big, but there's a path there. And if again, if Purdue does get beat, let's see how competitive a game they can make this and how deep they can take USC into this ball game.
Storylines are so interesting too. Of course, Jade Maeva with has a Barry Odom tie. Josh Henson was at USC, coached 3 years with Lincoln Riley, of course, Purdue's offensive coordinator. It isn't. There's some real intrigue. Purdue and USC do not have a lot of history of playing one another. They're going to now, obviously being in the same conference. But that's also what makes this game a little bit fun.
Yeah, it does. You're right. Those storylines within the game. You talked about Jaden Maeva, him being Barry Odom's quarterback, and back in 2023, his first year at UNLV. Mike Shear was there as well. Josh Henson being Lincoln Riley's OC the last 3 years in Los Angeles before hooking back up with his buddy here in West Lafayette and Barry Odom. So yeah, it's those things kind of juice up the storyline here, and it's kind of funny. I forgot, Alan. Rob Ryan is part of the USC staff. Of course, Rex Ryan's brother. He of the famous hair.
Yeah.
Longtime NFL assistant coach, defensive coordinator at many NFL places. He's on this staff. People watching this, if you're an NFL fan, I'm sure you all know who Rob Ryan is. Kind of one of character of all characters in the coaching fraternity. So, and yeah, Lincoln Riley and the mighty Trojans, Alan, and you and I talked about this too. USC, I guess, is going to bring part of its band as well. So that's going to really make even for a more fun atmosphere in Ross-Ade come kickoff at 3:30 on Saturday.
What does it say about Barry Odom? Jaden Maeva, he in 2023 he has success. Barry Odom does, and Jaden Maeva in the opportunity to improve UNLV. He has to recalibrate his quarterback. He loses his quarterback last year in the controversial situation. Still finds a way to have the best season in UNLV history. A team I think that was ranked 20th. Near or at the end of the polls last year, but the ability to do that, and could Barry Odom, I guess we're going to find out. He can be the portal whisperer, so to speak. The fact that he's had guys over 50 players each of his 2 years at UNLV, he's got more than that at Purdue in terms of transition, really speaks volumes to maybe how he somehow and he and his staff have been able to evolve here over the last 3 years.
The problem solver, Alan.
Yeah.
Problem solver, and he's not going to be making excuses.
Yeah.
Certainly not for himself ever. You talk to the guy, and you got to find a way. If you come to Barry Odom with a problem, you got to find a way. And like you said, I think you illustrated there how he's been a problem solver, how he's found a way, how he's been resourceful, how he's been able to adapt, Alan, how he's been able to adjust on the fly.
Yeah.
You never feel sorry for yourself, and Barry Odom, you tell him the rules, and he'll figure out a way to, as best he can, to make it work for him. And that's coaching, that's life, and that's a very admirable trait. So you're right. Barry Odom's always going to pick himself up by his bootstraps and figure out a way to try to get something done. And you saw it at UNLV those 2 years, Alan, one of the most moribund programs in America.
Yeah.
2 tremendous seasons there. Now he comes to West Lafayette, inherits a program that's just an utter abomination. Totally flips the roster. Here we are again. Hope is alive once again here in Tippecanoe County, and they're 2-0, Alan. And right now, my friend, everybody's food tastes better. Everybody's wife's prettier. Everybody's dog is smarter. And every possibility is still out there for Purdue. Why not upset USC, right? I mean, yeah, I'm sure. I know Barry Odom's thinking that. You know that for sure.
Yeah. It's funny because and we wind down this segment, the whole notion that Barry Odom, and he's really pointed about that, at least when he addresses the media, he just is not going to make excuses for anything. He accepts, he'll say things like, well, this may not be my choice, but it's the rules. This is the way we're going to do this. And yet he's also ultimately playing within the new landscape of college football. That seems to be an admirable trait for a guy, like you said, that has to turn around a big boat here after two consecutive losing seasons for Purdue and one really atrocious season, obviously last year in 2024.
Yeah, he was asked about the coming change in the transfer portal system, going from
Yeah,
2 windows to one, and he said, "Hey, look, we're going to have a plan,
yeah,
and it's going to be a good plan." There you go. He didn't whine and complain about not having that second window. He's going to have a plan. I know his GMs, Brandon Lee and Ethan Hansen, are going to do a great job too, coming up with a plan, just like they did this last year. So, behind closed doors, they huddle up and are organized. I know they're hard working, and if they fail, it's not going to be because of lack of trying or lack of preparation.
yeah. And I think playing the long game here is important. And we're not conceding the game tomorrow. Purdue's got a huge uphill battle. It's going to have a lot of things go right, but I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's probably one of the things I like most about this staff is its ability to say, this is the hand we're dealt. We got to compete in this league, and we expect to compete in this league, even though there aren't many of the pundits that think Purdue's going to be competitive this year or really be a team that's going to be in the upper half of the Big Ten. But that's the charge, and I don't think Barry Odom's backing down with that. Tom, thanks so much. We appreciate all of you. We'll look forward to, like I said, it's going to be fun to have that logo school in Ross-Ade Stadium. It's been a little while since that's happened, since 1976. It'll be fun to see that, and maybe hear a little bit of the USC band as well. Going to be a fun day in Ross-Ade.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I'll see you Saturday, Alan. Thanks very much, buddy.
All right, we will take a short break here, as in 2 minutes, and be back. Segment 2, Kelly Kitchell, somebody that Tom knows well, will shed some wisdom on not only Purdue, USC, but of course the big reunion that's happening this weekend of the 2000 Big Ten champion 2001 Rose Bowl team. Going to be a lot of fun with that. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes on Gold and Black Live.